How many dimensions are there in our universe? TLDR version 10. The long version. When someone mentions different dimensions, we tend to think of things like parallel universes, alternate realities that exist parallel to our own, but where things work or happen differently. However, the reality of dimensions and how they play a role in the ordering of our universe is really quite different from this popular characterization. To break it down, dimensions are simply the different facets of what we perceive to be reality. We are immediately aware of the three dimensions that surround us on a daily basis, those that define the length, width, and depth of all objects in our universes, the x, y, and z axes, respectively. Beyond these three visible dimensions, scientists believe that there may be many more. In fact, the theoretical framework of superstring theory posits that the universe exists in 10 different dimensions. These different aspects are what govern the universe, the fundamental forces of nature, and all the elementary particles contained within. The first dimension, as already noted, is that which gives it length, aka the x-axis. A good description of a one-dimensional object is a straight line, which exists only in terms of length and has no other discernible qualities. Add to it a second dimension, the y-axis, or height, and you get an object that becomes a two-dimensional shape, like a square. The third dimension involves depth, the z-axis, and gives all objects a sense of area and a cross-section. The perfect example of this is a cube, which exists in 3 dimensions and has a length, width, depth, and hence volume. Beyond these 3 lie the 7 dimensions, which are not immediately apparent to us, but which can still be perceived as having a direct effect on the universe and reality as we know it. Scientists believe that the 4th dimension is time, which governs the properties of all known matter at any given point. Along with the 3 other dimensions, knowing an object's position in time is essential to plotting its position in the universe. The other dimensions are where the deeper possibilities come into play, and explaining their interaction with the others is where things get particularly tricky for physicists. According to superstring theory, the 5th and 6th dimensions are where the notion of possible worlds arises. If we could see on through to the 5th dimension, we would see a world slightly different from our own that would give us a means of measuring the similarity and differences between our world and other possible ones. In the 6th, we would see a plane of possible worlds, where we could compare and position all the possible universes that start with the same initial conditions as this one, i.e. the Big Bang. In theory, if you could master the 5th and 6th dimension, you could travel back in time or go to different futures. In the 7th dimension, you have access to the possible worlds that start with different initial conditions. Whereas in the 5th and 6th, the initial conditions were the same, and subsequent actions were different. Here, everything is different from the very beginning of time. The 8th dimension again gives us a plane of such possible universe histories, each of which begins with different initial conditions and branches out infinitely, hence why they are called infinities. In the 9th dimension, we can compare all the possible universe histories, starting with all the different possible laws of physics and initial conditions. In the 10th and final dimension, we arrive at the point in which everything possible and imaginable is covered. Beyond this, nothing can be imagined by us lowly mortals, which makes it the natural limitation of what we can conceive in terms of dimensions.